Welcome to Celebration's Magical Moments. I'm Tim Foster, and I'll be taking you on a tour of some of your favorite Walt Disney World attractions and resorts. Before we get started, if you have a favorite secret or little-known fact, be sure to share it with us in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for even more Disney magic. In this episode, we're going to take a journey through the wettest, wildest flume ride this side of Space Mountain, a place where everything is satisfactual. Splash Mountain. Quick, name the fastest attraction in the Magic Kingdom. If you said Space Mountain, well, we can't blame you. It certainly feels like it's the fastest. But surprisingly, Space Mountain doesn't even make it into the top 3. So, what is the fastest? We'll give you a hint. It is indeed a mountain. Big Thunder Mountain? Nope. Need another hint? Alright, at this point you're probably saying, Tim, I think you've already given us a hint by virtue of the subject matter of this video. And yep, you got me. Surprisingly, Splash Mountain is indeed the fastest mountain at the Magic Kingdom. While Space Mountain speeds along at 27 miles per hour, and Thunder Mountain races through the canyons at 30 miles per hour, the final plunge of Splash Mountain will have you reaching speeds of 40 miles per hour. And while it's a far cry from Walt Disney World's ultimate speed champion, that does make it the Magic Kingdom's fastest attraction. Now, incidentally, does anyone care to take a guess at what the fastest attraction is? We'll reveal the answer later. Now, the obvious caveat here is that the 40 mile per hour burst of speed only lasts for a few seconds, while the rest of the attraction is a leisurely cruise that winds through Chickapin Hill. And it's a long cruise indeed. The canals in Splash Mountain are 2,600 feet long, which is nearly half a mile. In fact, if you were to straighten out the canal, it would stretch all the way to Narcoossee's at the Grand Floridian. So that's a long canal, and a lot of water. How much water? Well, it turns out that Splash Mountain is equipped with a reservoir that can hold 950,000 gallons of water, and that's equivalent to roughly 10 swimming pools, so they're not kidding when they say you might get wet. And let's make no mistake, you will get wet. Now that's certainly a lot of water, but for the sake of comparison, it would take 6 Splash Mountains to fill the tank at the Seas with Nemo and Friends, though admittedly the ride there is a bit slower. But let's get back to that big splash. Sure, a lot of that water ends up on you, but as anyone standing on the bridge in front of the falls can attest, there's plenty of water that gets shot into the air as your log lands in the briar patch. So where does all that extra water go? Well, it turns out that the runoff from Splash Mountain leads to the rivers of America, further integrating Splash Mountain into its surroundings in Frontierland. So how do you build a mountain that's home to a winding waterway and lots of critters? Dirt? Rocks? Fiberglass? No? Well, how about concrete? Yep, concrete was used for much of the construction of the Magic Kingdom's newest mountain for several reasons. For starters, it would take much less time to complete than a conventional all-steel structure, and it would also be able to withstand the constant dampness inherent in any flume ride. But perhaps the greatest advantage concrete provided was in the artistry. The use of concrete allowed the sculptors to meticulously create all of the intricate details in the exterior rocks. The professional plasterers that created the mountain's facade also sculpted nearly all of the interior scenery, right down to the rustic homes and even the watermelons. In fact, the only 2 pieces of scenery not constructed out of cement, apart from the animatronics of course, were the giant showboat seen in the attraction's finale and, oddly enough, the mule cart in the same scene. Now, a giant steel skeleton does provide a solid base for all of that concrete, and the actual ride mechanism was developed by a company called Dennis A. Murphy Design and Drafting Services. Why is that important? Well, if you've ever felt a sense of foreboding as you inched up that final incline, it might be because this was the same group of designers that constructed the attraction vehicles for the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, and you thought it was just those vultures. The use of concrete also provided the ideal painting surface to bring the mountain to life. When Splash Mountain opened in Disneyland in 1989, the coloring of the mountain was based on the color scheme used in the animated sequences of the 1946 film Song of the South, as designed by Claude Coates and Mary Blair. However, When the attraction was added to Walt Disney World's Frontierland, the Imagineers realized that the color scheme used in Anaheim wouldn't fit in very well with nearby Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, not to mention the color scheme of the land in general. So as a result, the color of the exterior was shifted to a stronger shade of magenta. The challenge of integrating Splash Mountain into the existing surroundings was perfectly summed up by show producer Kathy Mangum, who explained that because you've got Big Thunder Mountain next to you, which has a lot of warm red in it, in addition to orange and ochre, we decided to push our version of Splash Mountain way toward the red, almost violet. However, these color concerns were only reserved for the attraction's exterior. Once you enter the mountain itself, the color palette becomes more vibrant, making you feel as if you've entered a real-life cartoon. Did you know that the original name for the attraction was going to be the Zippity River Run? Well, that would make sense considering the theme of the attraction was inspired by the animated sequences from Song of the South, which featured the song Zippity Doo Dah. Other names that were considered included the Song of the South Flume Ride, and in the spirit of keeping things simple, plain old Zippity Doo Dah. But while these names certainly tied into the theme of the attraction, there was a concern that they might sound a bit childish. After all, the concept was that this was going to be an attraction filled with big drops and plenty of thrills. And Zippity River Run? Well, I think we can all agree that that name might not have inspired the thrill-seeking anticipation of attraction like, say, the Tower of Terror. But what to call it? It was actually then CEO Michael Eisner who came up with the perfect name. As he explained it, it's a mountain. You have a big splash at the end? It's Splash Mountain. Now, in retrospect, that seems obvious since mountain-themed attractions are well associated with Walt Disney World. But at the time, the concept of the Disney Mountains wasn't actually a thing, even though Space Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad had been thrilling guests for years. It was the addition of Splash Mountain that truly gave birth to the Disney Mountain motif, and today, of course, you can take a journey to the Forbidden Mountain on Expedition Everest. So, simple, right? Well, not so fast. There's a bit more to the story than that. There was another inspiration for incorporating the word splash into the attraction, and that was the release of the film Splash in 1984, which starred Tom Hanks, John Candy, and Daryl Hannah. Eisner had the idea of tying in the new attraction with the new film in a cross-promotional effort. He even went so far as to suggest that a mermaid be added to the attraction, since, for those of you who never saw the film, Daryl Hannah's mermaid character is the star of the movie. The Imagineers sensibly pointed out that a mermaid wouldn't fit very well into the theming of the attraction, so that particular idea was dropped. Even so, Tom Hanks does sing Zippity Doo Dah in the film. But, independent of the film tie-in, Splash was an apt description of what you were in for, and so, the name Splash Mountain was born. Oh, and in case you thought I'd forgotten, the fastest attraction in Walt Disney World is Test Track, which reaches a top speed of 65 miles per hour, but we'll talk about that in a future episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Celebrations Magical Moments. Be sure to visit us at celebrationspress.com, where you can discover even more Disney magic with Celebrations Magazine, as well as our series of collector's books. Join me next time as we take another journey through one of your favorite attractions, and in the meantime, keep on enjoying the magic.